back to Canada. This could go on and on and on. It's pretty complicated, and I don't profess to be an expert. I probably shouldn't be up here talking because it is so multi-layered. Canadian military suicides, 119. I couldn't find the figure for 2009, and I don't think the figures for 2010 have been released. Yes?
Was that troops that are deployed or just Canadian troops generally?
That's just for all the Canadian military, but since the deployment to Afghanistan, they've at least doubled Canadian suicides, and in some years they have tripled. Yeah, good point. I couldn't find data for suicides just associated with Afghanistan. I couldn't do it, but they have gone up substantially since Canada's been involved in Afghanistan. Military personnel wounded in Afghanistan to December 2009, over 1,400. The amount of money, does that shock anyone, the amount of money that is going to be spent caring for? That's just Afghanistan wounded troops, $11 billion. Yearly expenditures up to $1.5 billion, $18.1 billion spent so far to 2011, or $1,500 per Canadian household. Now, the military role is supposedly going to change with a commitment of about 950 advisors after troops come out. Still, the extended mission is going to cost $1.5 billion. The most applicable Angus Reid poll I found, 56% of Canadians are opposed Canada's military mission in Afghanistan. Only 37% support the mission. Back to energy, it takes 11 days worth of Afghanistan and Iraq military operations to use up a day's worth of Alberta tar sands. So that is how much in barrels is used every 11 days in Afghanistan and Iraq. 1.1 million barrels. So 1/11 of our production from the Alberta tar sands, you could say, is being used for military. Not directly, but that's how that resource is being appropriated, is being utilized. So it's a complicated issue. One thing that, one book that I read last month, this is a woman that, we talk about the issues in Afghanistan being complicated. And a lot of people say, what about women's rights? Women are being so abused in Afghanistan, and I'm not going to argue against that. This is a woman who grew up in Afghanistan and also in refugee camps in Iran and Pakistan. And she ran schools, illicit schools. She has an activism mindset because of her father. Her father fought with the Mujahideen against the Russians. So her father was the one who instilled a sense of social responsibility. So she was actually invited to some of the important meetings when Afghanistan was occupied, and was eventually elected to the Afghani parliament. She is famous because she spoke out against the emplacement of warlords within the Afghani parliament. And she was eventually kicked out of parliament because of her outspokenness. And this book, what does she say about women's rights and the NATO occupation? Get out. NATO, get out of Afghanistan. It is under complete occupation, and it has no autonomy. It is not a sovereign nation any longer, and it's being run by US-backed forces. Cheryl, you had a question?
How much did it cost you to produce these things?
Too much.
How many were produced?
I printed 2,000 of these. These cost around 80 cents a piece. Yeah.
You know, we said in our small group one there, that we need to take this kind of stuff we're talking about and experiencing here tonight out of the closet, out
Yes.
of these rooms,
Yes.
and out into the street. And I just had this over-the-top vision of like dropping these like helicopter all over the city. But we can do other kinds of guerrilla action like that. And
I
if
wish
we had
we.
enough of these, just take them everywhere you go and just leave them.
I wish we could have printed 50,000. I would, if that could happen, I would go out and I'd put one in a mailbox in every house in Peterborough.
Yeah.
So along that line, the reason, aside from giving the information here, I included a bit of an action, and there are 2 postcards. The statement on the top postcard to Prime Minister Harper: I want complete withdrawal of Canadian military presence from Afghanistan. I am in favor of Afghanistan becoming a sovereign and self-determining nation without foreign influence or interference. I am asking you to adjust Canadian foreign policy to ensure that these desires are acted upon and allowed for by the Canadian government. So, as a point of discussion, we chewed on this for at least 5 minutes.
Hours. Hours.
So, notice that there is nothing about diplomacy, there's nothing about humanitarianism. I feel these are issues, they may exist in Afghanistan, but they have been used to cloud the issue of what's really going on in Afghanistan, which is the occupation of Afghanistan is about strategic positioning in Central Asia and the resource appropriation, oil, gas, and minerals. So all the other issues are layers that are purposely complicating the issue that most people are not willing to sort out. Yes, right.
Yeah, in support of what Cheryl said, we intend to take this outside of Peterborough. We'll use our Council of Canadian contacts elsewhere. We're not stopping here.
Yeah. So if you agree with that statement, there is one for Prime Minister Harper and Michael Ignatieff, who is right now the leader of the opposition. And I adjusted the statement slightly for Ignatieff. And no postage required because it's going to the House of Commons. You can cut those out, fill in your name. Discussion with people with Ontario Clean Air Alliance, whose template that I used for this. If you don't sign it, they may throw it out. They may discard it. Yeah, so please sign it. And let's see. The other thing, in the central panel, I've provided for people, and some of you may know all of this. What are some other things we can do? And maybe this is a good way to move towards closing off the evening. And we talked about in the discussion groups, what can we do as individuals? And kind of that question is almost the answer, because the most we can do is adjust our individual behaviors and project our own personal feelings on some of these issues. So first and foremost, be informed. Attend seminars like this. And don't believe anything that I told you. Don't believe anything. Look it up yourself. Verify the sources. As I said, it seems to be common knowledge what's going on in Afghanistan, common knowledge everywhere else except North America. There are other sources of information, and I listed 4 websites on the back. Please go to those. The first one, sorry Roy, I didn't put Council of Canadians first. The policy alternatives, there are some great articles, that first website. They're fantastic. So be informed. So when people ask you about it, you're not going, I don't know. Give them a source. Give them one of these. When you mail your postcards in and you know everything on here, give the remaining 4 panels, pass it on to someone else. The information's still valid. Withdraw your political support for parties and MPs who support Canadian military presence in Afghanistan. The election's coming up. we would love to have this be an election issue.
If
How do we
everybody
do-
after they sent their postcard did 80 cents worth of photocopying of the rest of it,
That's right, that's right. Write letters to your MP and Prime Minister, maybe write a separate letter. Maybe pass these postcards on to someone else and write your own letter if you feel passionate about this issue, like I do. Express your opposition, ask for specific actions. You can phone, let's all phone Del Mastro Monday. You know, what if we all did that? What if 15,000 people from Peterborough phoned Del Mastro's office?
In Ottawa, or Peterborough.
Both. Both.
You should be here.
What if we did that? So, and this is from David Suzuki's website. I stole it from. You may not talk to Del Mastro, but talk to his staff and have a specific request for action left with the staff. Now, this is a big one that I added in here. Check your investments, including your pension plan. So, are you unwittingly contributing to this? Check for weapons manufacturers, petroleum companies, and service providers involved in Afghanistan. And I have to do this as well. My RRSPs might be contributing to these. I have to do this. I have to make a personal commitment to do that. And one day, I'm going to get the gumption up to ask about my work pension plan. And I almost don't want to ask the question. Because there was one thing with Roy, the teacher's pension plan, and I was actually at the educators conference back in April. It was the Ontario Society for Environmental Education. Maud Barlow was one of the keynote speakers there. It was a room full of environmental educators. 99% of them were actual teachers working for school boards. The teacher's pension plan, I think it was, what's the name of the pension plan?
Teacher's pension plan.
Okay, the teacher's, what's it called?
Oh,
It's got a name.
Ontario Teachers Pension Plan.
Oh, that was, oh, okay, I got it right.
OTTP.
They are investing in, is it water withdrawals?
Water privatization.
Privatization.
Water privatization. And there was Maud Barlow, the UN advisor on water issues, telling a room of 200 teachers that their pension plan was contributing to water issues, to water privatization in countries that can't afford that to happen. It was quite the moment. So check your investments. And if you delete those involvements, you can delete it. Make your reasons known. Tell the banks. Tell the banks or the pension plans why you want change in that respect. Share information with family, friends, and neighbors. And last but not least, speak out against war, especially those waged for reasons of resource appropriation or other strategic purposes. There really should be no qualification on that. Speak out against war. So, yes.
I think it is really important that we let the Afghani people sort out their conflicts, since we're not making things much better.
That's my feeling too.
But there is, the Canadian people have a special connection with Afghanistan. What are ways that we can continue to support their development without being involved militarily?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure. I don't know. The question